In this last part, I will introduce or describe what I call the Scientist Innovation Survival Kit. It's a collection of tools, tips, and some methods that we should adopt if we want to develop a real innovation project. First, we must be aware that scientists are not good at innovation because they will offer and find solutions, but mostly because the way they used to work in the lab during their research project. And if that could be disappointing, people don't like innovation. That's the first thing we must have in mind when we develop an innovation. People don't like innovation. People, in average, don't want innovation. People want only one thing. They only want their problems to be taken care of. This is why we must always think about what is the problem and who are the people who want to see it fixed. Here I present a famous curve that was presented by Everett Rogers in his book Diffusion of Innovation. And this is the curve that displays the evolution of penetration of an innovation in the population. We go from the left to the right. And on the left, you have for 2.5%, you have what is called the innovators. Innovators are the first adopters of an innovation. It's a very small fraction of people. They are always looking for new product, new methods. They will adopt it because it's new, because it's different. Then you have the early adopters. Early adopters will adopt innovation because they want to show something. They want to demonstrate in their social position that they are open to new invention, new product, new system. Early adopters are the people who will line up to buy a new cell phone, lining up overnight, when they can come 2 days after and just pick it up from the shelf. Because being the first to adopt, to buy a new product, is telling something about themselves. In other words, what we can say is that the only fraction of people who do like innovation are these two components, is 15% of it. You cannot penetrate the market with only 15%. And you have then what is called the gap or the chasm, where you must contact and convince the third fraction of the population, which is quite a big third. And this is what is called the early majority. The early majority are people who will adopt innovation, new product, when they are convinced that these new products are fixing the problem better than the product they are used to. They will never buy a new product if nobody else has bought it. They will read the review, they will compare, they will check the price. But what is very important is that you cannot convince them to adopt innovation if nobody else had done it before. Then you have the late majority. The late majority is another third of the population. The late majority are actually the group who will adopt the innovation when already 50% of people have adopted. So it means that they will do it when it's well established and well recognized that the new method, the new process, the new product is delivering what is supposed to. And finally, 16% is what is called the laggards. And the laggards are individuals who will only buy innovation when the old products are not on the market anymore. You could ask yourself, how should I proceed if I want to develop some innovation? We can summarize it in 5 steps. The first step is to create your innovation triangle. The innovation triangle, as we describe it, it's a combination of a problem, users, and a solution which is specifically adapted to a specific group of users. From the business point of view, we can say that innovation triangle will be described as a business model. Do not make the mistake, it's not a business plan. The business plan is a long and quite useless at this stage document. The business model is actually the short document who will illustrate what is the problem you are addressing, who are the people who could be interested with a solution, and what your solution will deliver. The second step is to build a prototype. You can't forget everything else. You can't forget to do the pitch competition. If you get some money, use it to build a prototype. And don't forget that a prototype is something that can be small. It's to manage to obtain something that works more or less. And step 3 will be very important. Your prototype is kind of solution, but this solution must fit with the problem, fixing the problem, but also fixing the problem the way a group of users want it to be fixed. So that's why it's very important at this step to contact potential users and ask them what they think about your prototype, what do they think about the model, what they think about what you want to offer. And when you ask them, then there will be a part where they say it's okay, I like it, and there will be another part where they say no, because you do not deliver this, or it's too expensive, or it's too big, or it's too whatever you want. That will be step 4 when you go back to your lab and you adapt your prototype. You modify, you come with version 2. And then you will go back to item 3 and ask your potential users, based on modification you provided, what they like, what they want, and if they expect more. It means that the innovation process, we know that it begins with a problem. And with this problem, it's not about try to find a solution in your corner, in your lab, and try to sell it. It's actually to start with a solution, version 1 of solution, ask the user what they like, what they dislike, then come with a version 2 and do it until users say, okay, this solution, if you can bring it to me tomorrow, I will pay for it. It means that the innovation process is actually an iterative process. And when you think about that, you can now compare the innovation process with a scientific methodology, because this is what a scientific methodology does. You begin with an hypothesis that will be, okay, I have a problem, I want to find a solution, my solution could look like this, build a prototype and testing, asking people around, and people will validate or not. If they don't validate the solution, you go back, modify your hypothesis, modify your solution, test it again, etc. If they validate, now you have what we can call an innovation. Innovation meaning a solution that people are ready to use and pay for. This is very important because we must always keep in mind that the innovation starts with problems that people want to see fixed because they feel their life will be improved. They don't want to buy it because you're nice, because it's new. They will buy it because they have the feeling that there will be something that will transform their life based on the action of your innovation. When we look at this iterative process and when we compare to the scientific methodology, we can conclude actually that innovation is not about luck. It's about vision and context. And this is what we must adopt. We must adopt a vision about what will come next, but also be aware of the context, about people who could use it, people who will be willing to see this problem being fixed. Now you are at the starting point and you say, okay, what should I do? Let's look at what is important. The very important point we must bear in mind is that the startup, the group who will work on the innovation project, it's not any company, but just smaller. You don't have to reproduce the structure of a company with a CEO, a CFO, a CTSO, a marketing, commercialization, etc., where you will spend a lot of money and do it just smaller, because this doesn't work. The goal of a startup, the goal of the group who will be working on the innovation, it's to explore what will be the best fit between the three items of the innovation triangle: the problem, the users, and the solution. It's based on the scientific methodology, hypothesis, test, validation. As long as you haven't found the better fit, you will keep this flexible, versatile structure easy to adapt to any change that could happen. When you will identify who are your customers or users, what is the market, how much it will cost, now you will have to leave the startup ecosystem and move into the company ecosystem, where now the structure of a company will be important. Another thing we have to bear in mind, we saw that it's usually claimed that we have a logical path between research, doing research, invention, finding something, and then move to commercializing this something. Don't do that, don't use this path because it doesn't work. Also, don't write a business plan and don't file a patent. Why not writing a business plan? Because a business plan is a very complex document that explains how a company is running, how a company is growing, but this concerns a company. And in the startup stage, you're not a company. You're just working on defining the best fit in a research project, try to identify the best solution and define the real problem. So the business plan is absolutely useless. First, it doesn't mean that you won't have to write one, but not at the beginning. So don't waste your time writing a business plan that will be totally useless because you don't have the numbers, you don't have the element, you don't have the information. Second point is don't file a patent, which is totally counterintuitive with what we are told. And still, it's don't file the patent first. Why you shouldn't spend your money to file a patent at the beginning? It's because your first invention, it's not even your first prototype. You will spend money to protect something that probably will not correspond to not even the product, but the first prototype that you can show, you can demonstrate. You have ways that are much more inexpensive to protect your invention without filing a patent. Let's see some additional tips. Talking about a patent, don't forget that a patent is only the milestone of an invention, but the invention is not an innovation. So the patent will create a protection for the invention, but it's not required for the innovation. Also, something which is very important is find your why. What is your driving force to create innovation? Why do you want to push this project? What you want to spend energy, time, maybe money to work on it? If you haven't been able to identify the reason why you are doing that, you will have problems when there will be more stress and more challenges you must face. And don't accept from other people or don't expect from other people to do your work. Be multitask. Get your hands dirty. You need to understand, because it's a small structure at the beginning, what are the different sides of your project. You cannot say, okay, I will stay in the lab and will do my work and will leave someone taking care of the business side, the marketing side, etc. You must understand at the beginning that your invention, your solution, is closely related with the expectation from the different users. So if you don't contact the users, if you're not part of it, you cannot translate their expectation into some properties or design for your solution. It means that you cannot just stick on your scientific mind. You must stretch your mind. You must be adaptive and you must be reactive. It's very important that you can understand what people mean, because very soon, and sooner than you expect initially, you will have to meet and talk to people who have not scientific or engineering background. They cannot understand how your system works, and basically they don't mind about how your system works. So it means that you will have to learn how to speak to everyone. don't forget that you must adapt to the people. They don't have to adapt to you. And you will have to see how the function of your system can be translated into values for the users and describe the values that the users will get, not the function that your system will offer. And now, when we speak to everyone, when we speak to people from different areas, we are facing a very important problem for engineers and scientists. We must stop explaining and we must start convincing. What does it mean? We have been trained to explain in detail what we are doing, what is the process, what is the design of the system, what are the components of the system. And we believe, because usually we interact with people from our own community, we believe that if we explain in detail how our system works, how it was built, people will understand what makes it different, what makes it better, etc. But people don't want it. So we don't have to keep explaining how it's made, how it works, but we have to start convincing them. And still, we have here the same thing, the same gap between describing the function, which they don't care actually, and start to convince them that by using it, they will get values. Because still, people don't want to know how our system works. They don't want to know what we have, what are the components apart. They just want to know one thing, if this can fix their problem. Most entrepreneurs already have a solution in mind, which they can't simply shut off. And the problem is when you have a solution in mind, you will ask, what top problems can my solution solve? You should ask, what are my customers' top problems? And then I will adapt my solution to fit their problem. I will not try to convince the users to fit with my solution. And that's something also important. And I take the example of a scientific talk, and it's about look around. Don't try to rediscover the wheel when someone else has discovered it before. In 2018, I attended a scientific talk when the scientist was talking about how supercritical water could be used to destroy and decompose organic molecules. The conclusion was that this analysis suggested that complex organic molecules could be decomposed in supercritical water, which was a good path, a good potential solution to destroy hydrocarbon. But actually, there was a company, a French company, Innoveops, who had already built a platform for treating waste with supercritical water, and this platform could deal with 1,000 tons of waste per year. So you see that here you have someone focusing on a solution while the solution exists already. Now something very important, because we cannot be by ourselves and we need to find direct or online mentors, people with an expertise in different domains who will give tips, advices, and people who will share our vision and our feeling. Hopefully now we can find over the internet a lot of people giving free videos, coaching, tips, advice without meeting face-to-face this person. Or we can decide that it's important to have someone we can interact with, not an expert in our domain, but an expert in developing innovation, who will help us to refine our idea and address some problem. Now we come to the conclusion. Usually for scientists, the conclusion is always the same. If we need more innovation, we need more research. In other words, if our society wants more innovation, the society should give more money to academic research. But is it the right conclusion? Based on what we saw before, I will come with three conclusions. The first one is that we've seen that innovation actually is not the natural outcome of research. Innovation is not the proof of success in research. Because innovation and research, I mean academic research, are based on different logic. research has already its own outcomes, and they're great. We saw it's about knowledge, it's about expertise, it's about discovery, it's about invention. Research doesn't need anything else. Just to justify research by improving knowledge, it's good enough. So we don't have to say that research will lead to innovation. But the last conclusion will be that if we want more innovation, at least we should try to do it properly. Thank you for watching.